On November 17, 2023, according to the families of the missing passengers of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, they received an official notice of a court hearing. In the case against Malaysia Airlines, Boeing, and other companies over the liability was heard in a court in Beijing between November 27th and December 6th. It has been 10 years that the court finally opened the case, which we think is a relief and a turning point. But the deterioration of the living conditions of the families in the past 10 years, and the fact that many of the family members involved have died because of the lack of money to treat their illnesses, that does make us feel very sad.
I have no demands. I don't want any compensation. I personally don't want any compensation. I'm 71 years old this year. Since retirement, my husband died this year at the age of 77 because of this incident. He only lived for 9 more years with me after the accident. My mother-in-law and my husband died within a year and a half of each other, and my son was brought up by his grandmother. Until she died, she did not know what happened to her grandson. I kept it from her. We go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs every day to make a claim, and nobody cares about us. You say your request, they just record what you said, and there is no use. It's just to coddle us. If your body is strong, then you can continue to struggle. But if you're weak, like many of the victims' families have died, they can't struggle anymore. They are physically limited, and it's been 10 years.
The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 has been called one of the biggest mysteries in aviation history. Because of the large number of Chinese among the passengers, we have reviewed information from the media in and outside of China. In this episode, we will present what we believe to be a relatively logical explanation involving Chinese politics. First, let's briefly review the case. At 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members departed Kuala Lumpur and was scheduled to arrive in Beijing at 6:30 a.m. Less than an hour after takeoff, the aircraft lost contact with Malaysia's air traffic control and suddenly disappeared over Vietnam. All communication systems were down, and the aircraft signals disappeared from the radar. Even the passengers' cell phones failed to send out any signals. The plane mysteriously disappeared.
Malaysia Airlines confirmed that this flight, MH370, lost contact with Subang Air Traffic Control at 2:40 a.m. this morning.
Rescue teams commanded by confusing information from Malaysia have conducted massive salvage operations from the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean, but so far have failed to locate pertinent items. Convincing plane wreckage in the plane's black box have yet to be found. The largest piece of so-called evidence appeared half a year after the accident. On July 29, 2015, a piece of suspected aircraft debris was found on a French island. A series of Boeing 777 specific maintenance numbers were found on the debris. The wreckage was confirmed to belong to a Boeing 777 and was sent to a French lab for analysis. The French didn't give a definitive opinion. On August 6, 2015, the Malaysian Prime Minister came forward to say that it belonged to MH370. The Chinese media, including major party media, collectively expressed a view. Over the past year or so, we have witnessed several times that the words of Malaysian government officials are unreliable, and the credibility of the Malaysian government has been undermined. What's puzzling is that the US has remained silent during the entire search and rescue process. Based on its advanced satellite technology, the American government can easily track a human being on Earth, not to mention an airplane of such a large size. Why is the American government silent? There exists one theory concerning the Malaysia Airlines. It was hijacked and then hidden. Not only do many Chinese people believe it, but some Western media also agree with this hypothesis. American writer Jeff Wise, commissioned by CNN to investigate the Malaysia Airlines incident, concluded that there was a huge conspiracy behind the disappearance. He believed that Malaysia Airlines didn't crash but was hijacked, and it's now probably hidden in Russia. What's more strange was the reaction from the top echelon of the CCP. In a rare move, the Xi Jinping administration at the time expressed strong dissatisfaction and skepticism towards the Malaysian government. On January 29, 2015, 10 months after the plane went missing, Malaysia announced that Malaysia Airlines MH370 had crashed, killing 239 people. Unbelievably, on the same day, China's then Premier Li Keqiang said, "We will continue to do everything we can to find out what happened to the plane and the passengers." For something that the world has been searching for over a year without finding, Premier Li's statement was that the Malaysia Airlines plane must be found. It's a radical deviation from the usual cautious style of politicians, unless the former premier knew some insider information. This message remains on the China Central Television Weibo page to this day and hasn't been deleted. Moreover, the Chinese ambassador to Malaysia at the time said at a press conference that the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines involved a criminal case. "We have to have patience. There are a lot of things that are beyond our imagination and control," he said. What he said can also still be found on China's official website. Similarly, another news item remained till today. On December 31, 2014, Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a New Year's speech, specifically mentioning, "This year we have also experienced some sad moments." With the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 and more than 150 fellow citizens unaccounted for, we must continue our efforts to find them by all means. Coincidentally, on the same day that Xi proposed efforts to locate the missing people, Chinese media outlet The Paper published a lengthy article. The article quoted a family member of one of the missing passengers, surnamed Zhang, as saying, "Zhang firmly believes that the plane didn't end up in the southern Indian Ocean and that the family members are still alive, only that they can't regain their freedom due to a variety of reasons, and that the loss of the Malaysian airline is a political conspiracy." There is a partial consensus among the families of the missing passengers about the conspiracy. The paper is considered a media loyal to Xi Jinping's faction. Such bold speculation was reported directly by the official Chinese media, without censorship or deletion beforehand or afterward. It should be an indication of the official viewpoint and attitude of the CCP at the time. A few days earlier, on December 11, 2014, a metaphorical article titled "Letter from MH370" appeared on one of the highest-ranking media outlets of the CCP, the People's Daily website. The article emphasized that the probability of an airplane accident is about 1 in 200,000, while the probability of a multi-person fatal crash is only 1 in 3 million. In the 20-year history of the Boeing 777, there has been only 9 accidents involving only 3 fatalities. Malaysia Airlines has only had 2 major accidents in its 40-year history, one of which was due to a hijacking, and in 2013 it won the World Travel Award for Best Airline in Asia. There are signs indicating that the Xi Jinping government is quite serious about the Malaysia Airlines incident, as if they have a vested interest in the matter. But they aren't the ones responsible for it. That's why they had a blunt reaction. So what is the secret behind the Malaysia Airlines? It's probably on its passenger list. According to the list of Chinese passengers on board and their identities published online, the identity of some passengers is still a mystery and seems to be intentionally covered up. According to the passenger list released by Malaysia Airlines on March 9, 2014, there were 153 Chinese, including an infant, 1 Taiwanese, 38 Malaysians, 12 Indonesians, 7 Australians, 3 French, 4 Americans, including an infant, 2 New Zealanders, 2 Ukrainians, 2 Canadians, 1 Russian, 1 Italian, 1 Dutch, and 1 Austrian passenger. The Chinese passengers were shown with their names and ages, but their occupations and identities are still undisclosed. According to the mainland Weibo and media reports at the time, only a small portion of the missing people's information has been confirmed. In Red China, where citizens are closely surveilled, it's very simple to find out about an ordinary citizen's identity, including his or her job and family background. But to this day, excluding the published passengers whose names and backgrounds are known, the identities of at least 100 people have been covered up. So, who were they? Let's go back in time to the eve of the plane crash. In March 2014, less than 2 years after Xi Jinping became the CCP leader in November 2012, there were two major factions within the CCP at that time. Former party chief Jiang Zemin and his partner Zhen Qinghong were bitter rivals of the Xi Jinping camp, known as the Jiang faction. At that time, the Jiang faction was very powerful both at home and abroad, while the Xi camp was weak in comparison. On March 2, 2014, MIECC, the convention center in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, hosted a Buddhist convention organized by Australia Oriental Radio. The keynote speaker was the radio director Lu Juanhong. After the disappearance of MH370 in the first hour after the incident on March 8, 2014, Chinese media Caixin.com, which was regarded as the voice of Xi Jinping's camp at the time, exposed that a group of Buddhists returning from Malaysia had boarded the flight. Caixin reported that a group of Buddhists returned to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur on board MH370, which took off at 12:20 a.m. on March 8th. These Buddhists were attending a convention on March 2nd in Kuala Lumpur, which was attended by nearly 30,000 Buddhists worldwide. Although the story was taken down soon after it was published, it can still be found on the internet, where it has been reprinted by Chinese language media at home and abroad. For example, the Oriental Morning Post at the time carried the above news word for word. Australia's Oriental Chinese language radio station issued a statement the next day denying the report by Caixin. According to public information, the radio's director Lu Juanhong is a well-known Chinese community leader in Sydney. He has been engaged in and served as the president and chairman of various overseas Chinese associations, as well as the director of Australia's Chinese language radio station for nearly 20 years. Lu also founded the Mindfulness Dharma program. It was reported in the media that Lu was a crook after Xi Jinping came to power. Here's a report by an official Chinese media, the Beijing News, in 2017, calling Lu and the Dharma sect he founded an illegal organization. In 2012, before Xi came to power, Lu was heavily praised by the CCP's party media. For example, in 2012, the People's Daily, the highest-ranking party media at the time, published an interview praising Lu's contribution to promoting Chinese culture to the world. There are many indications that Lu was close to former party leader Jiang Zemin, as People's Daily wrote on January 8, 2012. In September 1999, Chinese President Jiang Zemin visited Australia. The Federation of Australia Organizations in Sydney organized a grand party, and Lu Juanhong was invited to write the music for one of Jiang's poems. After the performance, Jiang Zemin went on stage and shook hands with Lu Juanhong, saying, "I didn't realize that you had composed the music and sang it so well." Jiang Zemin was asked to sing an impromptu Peking opera piece. Lu Juanhong accompanied him on the Hu Qin, and the atmosphere was electric. Over the past 2 decades, the real identities of overseas Chinese migrants like Lu Juanhong have been unique and are often inextricably linked to the CCP's Overseas Secret Service. Overseas Chinese media reported that a large number of people from the 610 office participated as Buddhists in the Buddhist convention in Malaysia initiated by Lu. What kind of organization is the 610 office? It was established on June 10, 1999, given authority that's above all organizations ranging from the party, the government, to the military. It's a gathering place for those in Jiang's inner circle. They received high promotions and lucrative bonuses for their active participation in the persecution and suppression of a spiritual belief group called Falun Gong. The Chinese government announced that before the July 1999 crackdown, there were at least 70 million to 100 million Falun Gong practitioners throughout China. Falun Gong believes in truthfulness, compassion, forbearance, and in divine beings. It's so different from the CCP's ideology that it was regarded by Jiang Zemin's regime at the time as contesting with the Party for the People, and Jiang Zemin was determined to carry out a mass genocide-type crackdown. In addition to this so-called Buddhist group that was covered up, a group of 24 painters was also known to be on the plane. Falun Gong practitioners distribute information in many public sites, especially tourist spots around the world, which they call truth-telling, namely telling the truth about the persecution of their faith by the CCP. Overseas Chinese media reported that a Falun Gong practitioner who had been clarifying truth at the Independence Square in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, recognized a man in a photo posted on the internet after the Malaysia Airlines incident. It was a group photo of the artist delegation of Chinese painters who had been aboard the crash flight. He recognized the man wearing a red shirt and white pants. He said, "I encountered these people in the afternoon of March 7th when I was distributing information at Independence Square. I remember the man in the first row wearing a red shirt and white pants in the photo because he rejected my information and also told others not to take my information." Someone in the group said blatantly, "Stop telling me this. That's what I do. I work for the 610 organization that specializes in targeting Falun Gong. So be careful that I arrest you and take you back." The Falun Gong practitioner also said that these tourists had mentioned in their chat that they came to attend the World Buddhist Convention and that they were going back to Beijing that night. It should be noted that apart from the testimony of this Falun Gong practitioner, there was little other evidence to link the 100-odd so-called Buddhists and related painters to the 610 office. So this episode is only trying to present a relatively logical story with a reasonable argument. Imagine, if there was a plan that led to this incident, it would have required at least the cooperation of a large force outside of China. In the aftermath, the Malaysian government was accused by the incumbent Xi's government of talking nonsense. So what force could it be? Moreover, the US has been silent about it, which could indicate that it couldn't have been done by a random individual or a small organization or institution. So, if it were arranged by the Zhang faction, it would then have made perfect sense. First of all, Jiang Zemin sent his own people from the 610 organization to attend the convention because they could be mobilized easily and quickly with the least chance of leakage. Then why did Jiang's faction want to eliminate his own people? After launching the persecution of Falun Gong on July 20th, 1999, Jiang Zemin used the method of secret commands. He never openly issued official documents in his name. Why? Because even according to the CCP's own law, Jiang's crackdown was illegal. Therefore, Jiang Zemin secretly wrote directive slips, which weren't even signed, and handed directly to the central government's 610 organization. In this way, he directed the persecution campaign, giving out orders such as to discredit Falun Gong practitioners, ruin them financially, and destroy them physically. Sometimes Jiang Zemin gave out verbal directives such as no investigation of the origin of the corpse, direct cremation, etc. After Xi Jinping came to power, Jiang's group made the people who had directly heard or seen Jiang's directives disappear or perish somehow. In other words, the evidence and witnesses of the persecution were being eliminated. If this group of people were controlled by Xi Jinping, they might have confessed to many of the inside stories of Jiang's faction under the coercive questioning typical of the CCP investigators. Second, the timing of the accident. The month of March coincided with the 2 sessions of the CCP in 2014. According to a report by the Nikkei News on March 10, 2014, on March 9th, a Hong Kong-based human rights group, the China Human Rights Democratization Movement News Center, revealed that after the disappearance of the Malaysia Airlines flight, the CCP senior management issued an emergency order to the military on March 8th. It instructed that any suspicious-looking aircraft approaching the center of Beijing could be shot down and destroyed. The center also claimed that someone on board Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 carried a bomb and was planning to hijack the plane and head straight for Zhangnan High, the center of CCP power. A few days later, when the 2 sessions was in progress, Beijing was on full military alert. Troops were stationed in all the underground passages near the Great Hall of the People where the 2 sessions were held, and in the shadows of all the delegations, making the atmosphere super tense. All the top officials of the CCP were in Beijing at that time, not knowing what to expect the next day. Imagine if the situation got out of control. Jiang could have taken the opportunity to propose the abolition of Xi Jinping and let Jiang's men take over China. At the time when Jiang Zemin's faction remained overpowering, it was quite possible. It looks like Xi was playing a secret game as well. Caixin.com first reported that a group of so-called Buddhists boarded the flight, and then the story was taken down as if a signal or warning to the ones involved. We know you did it. If this theory is correct, how did Xi Jinping's camp prevent the plane from exploding? Was it a defection by someone in the Zhang faction, or was there help from, say, the US? The details on what has really happened during the process will have to wait for the day when the truth comes out. It has been almost 10 years since the crash of the Malaysia Airlines airplane, and until now it isn't clear who is responsible. Over the past decade, many families of the missing Chinese passengers haven't given up pushing for a search. Some of the families have put their hopes more or less on the Chinese court, hoping to get compensation in this trial. However, lawyers believe it's rather difficult to defend their rights. In this hearing, we brought up that the defendant is the responsible party, who has an obligation to prove, to show that he is not responsible. At present, the inability to give evidence or insufficient or incomplete evidence has left huge space in the trial process of this case. Please refer to the relevant department for the details regarding this matter. China values the follow-up to MH370 incident and hopes all sides maintain close communication to properly handle this issue. In the US, similar cases against the airline, its holding company, and insurance company for this incident have been dismissed on the grounds that they should be handled by the Malaysian legal system. Malaysian courts have only made rulings for its fellow citizens' families, while the Chinese families have received virtually no ruling or judgment.